Hi guys, I just wanted to touch base real quick and basically talk a little bit about my experiences as a beekeeper. This was my big hobby this last year, so I made it through one whole summer. I run into people all the time that want to know more about it, what it's like, what the processes are. So I'm just going to kind of tell you what I ran into, and if you're interested, I'll be glad to talk to you further about it. If not, that's cool too. But basically, what happened with me and beekeeping was it started off a year ago. I was running a garden and I just couldn't get any kind of bees, any kind of activity out there with them. So what I would do is I was actually having to go out there with a paintbrush or with a Q-tip, and I was having to pollinate my own uh, garden, to try to get some things going on there. What what happened? My wife made fun of me, and she ended up getting me like a bee suit and called me the pollinator. But so so I was trying to do things to cause some bees to come and get more activity. So I ended up going out, and one of the things I did was I started calling some friends of mine. I have a neighbor that's got bees, and I was trying to find out if I could get a beekeeper to come into my place and put a hive up in my yard. And they take care of it and they do all the work. And I would be able, I'd say, you can have my yard to use and maybe a jar of honey every year, then we're all good. Well, I found out pretty quickly that there wasn't anybody that really wanted to do that in my little quarter-acre lot in a subdivision. My neighbor who has bees. I mean, I didn't understand this at the time, but bees travel 2 to 3 miles to get their food. Every time they go out. So my little yard was not going to be of a huge consequence. Plus, they were already within that distance for him. So I learned a lot in the process of trying to get free labor to come in and take care of it for me. So then doing some more research, a buddy of mine who had 3 hives said, "Look," he goes, "if you want bees, I'll get them for you." So Tom Colvin, and so I blame him a lot for me getting into this, and I thank you, Tom. It's Tom and Ashley. I really appreciate it because I'm having a blast. But Tom goes, "Look," he goes, "I'm trying to downsize. So if my bees make it through the winter, they survive the winter," he goes, "I'll give you one of my hives." So now all of a sudden I have something to keep in mind. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God." I've started reading about them, trying to learn more about them, because if I want to have a hive of bees that I have to take care of, I probably ought to know something, what they do and how to care for them, and how to keep from getting stung to death. I didn't know what I was getting into. So I ended up, my daughter got me a book called Beekeeping for Dummies. Absolutely phenomenal book. I recommend it to anyone that's thinking about getting into it. Really kind of walks you through all the different parts of it. I felt so much more, armed. And then later on, I ended up going to the North Central Indiana Beekeepers Club, and I went through their beginning training, their first class. And I have to admit, there was nothing in that class that I had not already read about in that book. So that gave me a great deal of confidence. That really helped me feel like, well, maybe I can do this. So I started studying because I wanted to understand, because I felt like in March or April, I'm going to have maybe 40, 50,000 bees sitting at my house that I don't know what to do with. So I'm studying. I read the books and I was watching YouTube videos and I was going to clubs and I was trying to do it. By the way, if you're thinking about getting into bees, I strongly recommend going through that process. Learn about them before you have them, because I can't believe how much I appreciate having that background before I started having to deal with the actual bees. So anyway, everything's going fine. I've got my yard ready. I've got all the stuff all set up, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready for that hive to come if they survive the winter. And in the meantime, I needed to buy a jacket and a veil and gloves and a smoker and a hive tool, and the different paraphernalia that you need to do it. So I'm looking online. I found all those things, and they had a package that if you buy the package, you get a better price. And it included a hive stand, or it included a hive and some of the paraphernalia that creates that small one deep box hive. So the bottom boards, the top boards, the inner covers, the frames. So I'm like, okay, well, so I'll need a spare eventually anyway. So I just went ahead and bought that to get the better deal. And so anyway, I'm all ready for, Tom's bees to come through. Unfortunately for Tom and for so many beekeepers, I guess 47% of managed hives have this happen, is that he had, in March, weather got warm, the bees broke their cluster where they stay together and stay warm, and went out in the nicer day and then didn't recluster when a big cold snap came in, and he lost 2 of the 3 hives. So all of a sudden I'm not getting bees, and I was so disappointed because I've been studying so hard and I was so fired up that I was ready to do this. So I decided, okay, I've got this hive, I now got to find out if I get some bees. And so I ended up finding that the Bastin honeybee farms over in Knightstown had some nukes still available. And a nuke is a nucleus hive. You can get bees either in what they call a package, where there's like, so many bees in a box, and then they have the queen kind of in a separate box, and they ship those to you. Or you can get a nucleus hive, or a nuke, which is a small colony already starting. It should have a laying queen in it. It's got some brood in it, which is the baby bees getting ready to hatch. It's got some, maybe some resources, some honey in it. And so you just kind of take this baby 5-frame hive and put it into a 10-frame, and hopefully it will grow, and it has a jump start on the other. So I ordered a nuke, and I was waiting for that to come about and be done. And I was so antsy, I just couldn't wait to get them. But on May 24th was the day I went over and picked them up and brought them home. And I have to tell you, the very first time when you do this was a kind of a rush. When you open that top of that nuke and you've got, I don't know, 20,000 bees or more that come boiling up into your face, even with your suit on stuff, it's unnerving. It was fine, but I got them put in, everybody was fine, got the thing transferred. And so now I got bees. And so we're going along. This was May 24th. And then I'm checking them, once a week. I'm going in and looking for the queen. I'm looking for eggs, looking for larvae. I'm looking for brood. I'm looking for that kind of stuff. And I'm really having a spotty, a lot of, I couldn't get the bees to build up the comb in these frames. I've got these new plastic frames, and they were pre-waxed. They come pre-waxed. But the bees just basically were blowing them off. They wanted nothing to do with them. They were not building comb on them, or if they did, it was real wonky looking stuff or what have you. So I was having problems with that. Then we were having problems getting the queen to really good laying patterns, because we were blaming it on the fact that the bees were not giving her enough space with new comb, and they were backfilling a lot of the comb with nectar and things like that, was blocking her from having good places to lay. So that was kind of what we kept thinking the problem was, and what have you. And this went on for a while. Then I bought some beeswax, and I melted it down, and I painted the frames with more wax so that I could get a fresher, heavier coat of wax on it, and that helped some. But we were still struggling, and I was still having problems with the brood. And then all of a sudden, about I don't know when it was probably sometime maybe around the 1st of July, all of a sudden my hive was under massive attacks from other beehives, where they were from, I don't know where their colonies were, that were attacking mine, because I had a weak, poorly queened hive, and the other bees were trying to kill my bees and take their resources. So my first, I have to admit, the big deal for me was getting, this was right in the evening, they were doing this. I had to get in there and protect my bees to shut down that front doorway, so the front entranceway. So I went in there and shoved a what they call a spacer, or a entrance reducer in there, to give my guard bees an opportunity to try to fight, kind of like the story of the where they fought off the Persians, in that smaller gap. It was that type of a thing. So I gave them that smaller opening to defend, to try to help them and help protect them. That was the first time I've dealt with a really hot hive, because you had bees in a major life and death battle going on, and I had to get in front of them, which is not where you want to be anyway. But that helped me understand that I can do that, and it gave me more confidence, and we ended up saving the bees, and they made it through it. So, and then on the middle of July, Joe Bastin recommended that and he's been a phenomenal mentor to me. He's been a godsend. And so I've had him, and I've had Terry Christman, who's a neighbor, who I don't know how many times he's come down here to help me. Dave Zbieszkowski, who is part of the Bee Club, and I got to know him. He's been down here to help me. Peg Murphy, I got to go with her to go through the biggest hive I've ever gone through. Up at the Bee Club, they have one at Cool Creek Park, and I got to go through her to learn how to do that kind of stuff. So the mentors have been phenomenal. North Central Beekeeping Club has been phenomenal. We have the club meetings at Cool Creek Nature Center. I recommend them highly if you're trying to do that and you're in this area. But anyway, mid-July, Joe finally says, I think you've got a queen problem. So he helped me get another queen. And I also ordered a different kind of internal feeder to see if that would help with the robbing. So mid-12th week, January 12th, we put a new queen in, and so basically I put her in, and she probably got out about the 16th or 17th from the queen cage, and all of a sudden things completely turned around. I mean, we got the new queen in there, and all of a sudden we started seeing some eggs and some larvae and stuff really starting to come in. And then Terry Christman, who's a neighbor and a longtime beekeeper, gifted me a full frame of capped brood. And I mean, we're talking both sides capped from one of his hives, that basically was a gift of 5,000 to 7,000 bees that will hatch out any minute. And he gifted me those, and to help boost my colony that had been suffering from the poor queen. And it was that particular adventure of putting those in, and then we ended up putting the second deep box on at that time. What was funny is that's the only time I've been in the hive this year that we didn't videotape. And I was going to, but we got busy. And what happened was, right as we were getting ready to go in, and that brood brood needed to get into the warmth quickly. It's not safe for it to be out long, so it had to get in quick. And right at that time, the first time and only time, my hood, the zipper came off and fell off. So I'm over there. I decided to step back a couple feet. I was trying to put the zipper on my hood so I could go in there. And Terry went ahead and went in to put that brood box frame in. And oh my goodness, the bees they were not happy. They got really fired up, and I got to be the recipient. I after about 12 stings, I kind of, forgot what happened, but I was kind of trapped out there, and it was not. So had I been videotaping, it might have gone viral. But anyway, the good news is we got those bees, that frame in there. They kicked butt, and by August, Joe had been coaching me. He was saying that we were probably on the edge of not being able to do 2 deeps this year, and he was going to start coaching me on how to try to get them to survive with just 1 deep box. That's a little bit more difficult, but that was what he was going to try to do. And my whole goal this year was not to get honey, was just simply to get the bees to live through the year and come out on the other end. Well, by August, things went nuts. Everything inside there has been great. The brood, it's just grown like crazy. I had a lot of bees this year, so they've got up, probably 50,000 bees in there. So that went great. Last time I was in the hive digging through, it was October 7th. Total, it was the top deep was 100% full of honey. Probably about 80 pounds of honey in it. The bottom deep still had a lot of brood in it, making the winter bees, which are bees that last longer. They live, most bees live 45 days. These guys live about 6 months. So try to get through the winter. And so I haven't pulled any frames since. I don't want to break. There's a thing the bees make called propolis, which glues things together. Well, it's hard for them to get that raw material for that when the trees aren't running sap. So I don't want to break that up. I want to leave that in there to kind of help them seal things. They don't need to be exposed to any temperatures below 50, so you just leave them alone. That's the hardest part for me now, because I enjoy getting in there and looking around and seeing what's going on. So now I have to just hope everything's going well in there until next spring. So right now, that's where we are. I put the mouse guards on it a couple days ago, so now we're protected for the winter. I just keep an eye on them, kind of check how heavy the hive is, pick it up every so often to see if it's still pretty heavy, if they got food. On nice days that are over 50, I'll take peeks in there to see if there's food supplies in there, and augment that if need be. So that's kind of what I can do now until spring. So I do have some plans. I've ordered a bunch of new hive parts. I have plans on doing a split next year, so about mid-March. I plan on putting another deep box on, letting the bees build the comb and build some brood up there, and then about mid-April, take that brood out and create buy a new queen, leave the old queen with them, and bring a new queen in to start the new one. So rather than having them go swarm on their own, trying to get 2 hives out of that colony. So that's my goal for the time being. We'll see. We got a long winter to go. I have to sit there and just, worry about them and, make sure they're going to be okay. But my first summer of beekeeping has been eventful, but it's been a lot of fun. I have had just a blast hanging out with the bees. And I have a tendency, almost every night when the weather was nice, I would go out and sit and pull a little chair up right about 8 to 10 feet from the bees. And I'd sit there and have a cigar and drink a bourbon or an iced tea, whatever I happen to be in the mood for, and just watch the bees come in and go out. It's just a blast. Love visiting with them. So guys, that's all I want to say. That's as a first summer of beekeeping, that's my experience.